Hello everyone. In the ongoing series of research methodology in sciences, today I, Dr. Charu Dogra Rawat, Associate Professor at Ramjas College, University of Delhi, would be discussing about the research design. The learning objectives for the session would be to understand what is research design, particularly in scientific research, to understand the elements and characteristics of a research design, and we will also look at certain types of, we will probably do today the correlational type of research design. Now when we know about research, just to review a little bit, the research is an aspect of doing science. The purpose of science is to create scientific knowledge which refers to a generalized body of laws and theories to explain a phenomena or behavior of interest that are acquired using the scientific research. So we are interested in the science. We discussed that science is basically curiosity. It starts or it stems with the curiosity. Now anything that can be this kind of curiosity that we observe for various phenomena and behavior, if they can be explained by a generalized body of laws and theories, then that is what we create or generate the scientific knowledge. And to create this scientific knowledge, we acquire what is called as the scientific research. Research methodology, we discussed in our introductory session, is the science of learning the way research should be performed systematically. Now this research methodology is very essential because it gives the structure, it gives the plan, it gives the methods, it gives various analytical techniques, it makes a person decide upon the results of employing all these techniques, that how to describe that phenomena or how to create that scientific knowledge. So research methodology is the science of learning the way the research is done. We discuss about the key aspects of research methodology, and I told you that research methodology, the first key aspect is that anything that recognizes or identifies the research. So when I say curiosity, the curiosity is probably just gathering the information. To suppress that curiosity, you can just gather the information, but that information is, you just know that information and you just keep it yourself. You do not analyze it, or you do not go into the depth of it, that what is the reason for that. So we discussed one example of, like, if the pickles are not stored in the copper vessels, you ask your mother and she tells you why it is not stored, then that does not constitute research. That does suppress your curiosity of knowing why the pickles are not stored in copper vessels. But the research involves, if you ask the question, there's an exploration involved, there is a questioning, there is a problem, there is a strategic way on how to solve that problem and to generate or create certain kind of a scientific knowledge. So first and important aspect for creation of this kind of a research methodology is that any curiosity that stems from the observation needs to recognize or identify the research. The second thing what we discussed was that it requires certain research methods. Now again I repeat that when we talk about research methods, particularly in science, what comes to our mind is basically the experimentation. Working on the table, there are beakers, there are plates, there are, if it is microbiology, or there are certain special equipments that are used. So that is the image that comes to our mind when we talk about research methods. But again we discussed about two different types of research methods, where one was the theoretical methods and the other was the empirical methods. So the theoretical methods are equally important as when we say that empirical methods or the table work or different kind of computational and analysis is involved, because the theoretical methods involve creation or laying down of a hypothesis, generation of theoretical models, etc., which can then later be proven, or the evidences are searched by the empirical methods which are involved. So research methodology can be employed to study anything in science that requires the employment of these research methods. So, it is very again important aspect. The third R is the refinement. So, when I said that we employ certain techniques, we employ certain methods and try to find out the solution for the problem that we have, or the hypothesis that we have generated because of the different kind of theoretical or even experimental aspects as well, then there always should be a place for the refinement of the findings and the results. So, research methodology is not just the employing of techniques and getting the results, but also to conclude, to infer, and then to refine those inferences based upon the learnings from that methods or even learning from the review of literature, etc. So, refinement is a key aspect of research methodology. The fourth aspect, the fourth R, is basically the reliability and the validity. So, we discussed upon this as well, that when we are talking about research methodology, the overall structure and the strategy and the plan, then these two terms, the reliability and validity, is what authenticates the kind of research that we are doing. So, obviously there are different methods that are involved to check this reliability and validity, but it constitutes an important characteristic. So, one has to think about the reliability and validity when they are thinking about the overall research methodology. So, the reliability of the results as well as the validity. So, we again discussed today in another context, but we did talk about the conclusion validity, the internal and the external validity in our previous session. The fifth R is basically the reporting. So, research methodology does not stop or does not just involve solving a problem, but it also involves reporting a problem, sharing the research, the publications, and different aspects to it, such as plagiarism or ethical considerations, or how far and where it can reach, or how you can report the findings, for example, submission of new genes or the sequences in the databases, etc. So, reporting becomes very important. So, for sharing the research, this reporting is the key R. So, these are the 5 R's that will tell us that any thing for which we are curious to know, that science that we are curious to know, for generating that scientific knowledge, these 5 R's should be encompassed in the research methodology. The R of recognizing, requiring, refining, reliability and validity, and reporting. So, this is again very important for you to understand. Before I move further, I just show you a brief table because again I repeat that people do get confused about the research method and research methodology. So, I have tabulated it, and you can again see that the research method is just the techniques and the method that is involved in solving a problem. However, research methodology starts from laying down the problem as well as looking at all the different possible solutions. They are basically comparing the different methods as well to find the solution to that problem. And as I said, then refinement, then reliability and validity, and then reporting also constitute the part of research methodology. However, research methods is basically just the use of equipments to find a particular or to get a particular result or get certain results which is there. So, that is the research or scientific method. So, many a times this research method is also termed as scientific method. So, these methods, this is just again a tabulated form. So, the objective is quite different, because in the method you just need to find the solution to a particular problem, but in methodology you have to compare even different methods and look for the best possible solutions, and then you also have to compare a lot of different factors for that solution, and you have to have a strategic plan for the refinement and reporting as well. So, I hope emphasizing this much on research method and methodology, the two terms are very clear to you. So this is the research methodology, as I discussed last time again, that we start from the observation part, that you observe some certain phenomena or a behavior, you get curious about it, you observe it, you engage in analyzing that thing, then you basically develop a certain kind of a hypothesis to explain that phenomena. For that, you do a lot of review of literature as well, because you do not have to reinvent wheel all the time. In research, it is research, so probably certain things have already been searched and explained, and that comes the significance of reporting as well. So you go through the databases, you go through the different libraries, etc. You find out that what research has already been done on it, and based on that you try to generate a new hypothesis, probably on the problem that you intend to solve. And then you need to very carefully look for the methods to find a solution to that problem. These scientific methods, again, you will get a whole variety of scientific methods now based upon different criteria, which we will discuss in when we are going to discuss in detail about the research methods that involved data collection or experimentation and all those things. So we will discuss about the criteria on how to basically devise the scientific methods when there are a plethora of scientific methods which are available. So you identify the problem, you lay down the strategy or a plan to execute and find the problem to that solution. You employ the methods, look at all the different kind of limitations and challenges of those methods, you find the results, then you again evaluate or validate the results that you have got, so as to rethink the entire process again. So this will go on reiterating over one another when you have a conclusion that can be validated internally as well as externally. So you evaluate the process and then you again report it, or you go back to again describing that phenomena and observing the sequential or the relative things and going over the research methodology again. So this is the circle of a research methodology, that how you employ different strategies and plans, and there are so many different components involved in finding the problem to a particular solution or researching about a one aspect. Now the key thing, the first key thing is basically to define or to design the research design or the plan, which is called as. So this research design refers to the plan, structure and strategy of research. It is basically the blueprint that will guide the research process. So research designing is the most important aspect. Again, I would emphasize on the fact, because this research methodology series is not only for the students who are studying this as a paper, but this is also very important for the people, for the students who want to pursue doctoral studies or higher studies after their post graduation. So what happens is, then when they want to get into the research, as I said that they just think of research as doing some experimentation work, getting certain results, because when we are teaching undergraduate students, we have practical classes. So in practical classes, now practical classes are basically related to the training part, where we train the students to use or employ certain scientific methods. So there it's basically you have an aim which you start with, you write down the methods and various kind of equipment and chemicals and different apparatus that are used. Then you write or know about the procedure which is employed, you do such kind of an experiment, you get the result and you discuss that result. So that constitute the research methodology, method part which is there, not research methodology as such. Because when you go into higher research, then the research starts from designing a research. So or you have observed, or it is already running in your lab, what projects they are working on. So you can identify a problem, but that problem identification is also a part of the research design. So you have to plan, structure and strategize that how are you going to do the research to generate the scientific knowledge explaining that particular phenomena or the behavior in which we are interested in. So, research designing constitutes a very important aspect. One has to lay down this plan and then work according to the plan, and this plan will always be robust but still give flexibility so that you can later on refine it and modify it and work upon it again so as to get the best possible solution to the problem. So, research design, I hope it is clear that it is the first step in pursuing the research, higher research, or even the part of the research methodology. Now, why do you need a research design? So, as I said, it is very, very important that one should have a plan, structure and a strategy. But why would you need that? You need that because it reduces the inaccuracy. If randomly you are employing different scientific methods to find out the solution for a problem, then there can be many kinds of inaccuracy that is there. So, you have to strategically lay down that what are you doing, have you done certain kind of a review of literature for doing that. So, you design your course of research in a manner that reduces the inaccuracy because you have well thought of it, you have well gained the information from the already available resources or the research, the reviews which are already there. So, you have already reviewed those literature. So, you have a strong knowledge base as well as you develop those kind of skills which are needed for a particular research design. Different kind of researches require different skills. If you are working on a DNA, you are working on a protein, you are working on RNA, you are working on different interactions, you are working on nucleic acid protein interactions, or you are working on for example an ecological research or an environmental research which involves the designing related to the population or community. It is an it is not table work kind of a research, but it involves surveys. So, you have to strategically know that what kind of research you are going to do. So, it reduces the kind of inaccuracy. It increases the efficiency and reliability. So, as I said, reliability is a very, very important aspect. So, when you execute, when you strategize a plan, then obviously employing that plan, it increases your efficiency because you are not randomly doing anything. You have strategically laid down looking at the limitations and challenges and even the backup plans. It's not necessary that you started doing one thing in research and you get the result as expected. You may get something which is newer. So, it increases your efficiency if you have thought over that what are the possibilities that I can get, and of course, it increases the reliability because you have a strong knowledge base on which you are creating this tower of research. So, the foundation, the knowledge foundation is very strong. So, obviously, it increases the kind of reliability which is there. We will talk about this bias and errors, where do they arise. So, obviously, if you again have strategize the research design, it eliminates many of the bias and errors. Now, errors can be related to the instruments, errors can be related to human error that can be created. So, you employ statistics, So, in research design, you very carefully examine what kind of a solution, what is the type of your problem, what kind of solution do you need, and therefore, amongst the different methods, what kind of methods you need to employ, what type of controls you need to keep so that you eliminate all kind of bias and errors which are there. You actually reduces or minimizes as many bias and errors can be present. Again, it increases the reliability of your research. The research design also minimizes the wastage of time and resources. Obviously, if it is a well-planned strategy that you are working upon, it will minimize the wastage of time, because if you are randomly employing just one particular kind of thing or without any direction, you just start doing a research, then probably you will go to a certain extent and you will find, oh, I didn't keep that control, or it was very important, or this was already done, because it's already present in the literature. So your time will be wasted, your resources will be wasted. If you have got a very exhaustively planned research design, then it minimizes the wastage of time and resources. And of course, it is not the directionless research that you are working on. So you are not working in dark, but it provides a direction to the research. So if you have got, as I said, it needs to be a robust, because it has all the different kinds of controls, it is eliminating all the kinds of biases and errors, and it is increasing the reliability and validity, reducing inaccuracy as much as possible, but still it is flexible enough to steer your research based upon the kind of results that you get. So, you always have to incorporate that element of flexibility in the robust strategic plan, so that you don't know, what is, you expect a certain thing, but you try to prove your hypothesis, but even if it is rejected, then probably you will get a n number of things or the directions in which you can work. So if you have got a research design, it provides a direction to the research. So there are many advantages of having this kind of a research design. Now, before I discuss upon the details of the various elements and characteristics of research design, I would just like to go over a typical research project. Like, in undergraduates also you have got a lot of research projects, even in MSc dissertations, even in various internships, you start working on research projects. Now, research projects, we ask a lot of whats, WHAT. So we all ask a lot of whats, and we will see how we execute these whats into different elements of a research project. So the research project, the kind of what that we asked is that what was studied, what about or what aspects of the subjects were studied or are studied, and what for. So what is the significance of this kind of study? So when you start with a research project, you have to basically ask these three whats. And these three whats are that what are we studying? What was studied, or what am I studying? What about it? What are the different aspects of the subjects that we are studying? And what is the significance of the study? All these things basically fall into what is called as the introduction of the research project. So what was studied, what about it, and what for we are studying, this will constitute into the introduction of the research project. Then comes when we say, what did the prior literature research say? That is the next what that we ask. So, what are we studying? What is the significance of this kind of a study? What are the subject aspects related to it? After getting to know about these whats, then in a research project, you go for like what is the prior information that is present. So as I told you, in a research methodology, this prior literature research or whatever experimentation research is very, very important. And this comes under the review of a literature that you write. Then comes like what was done, or how was the study conducted, or how do I execute that kind of a study. So it will involve the research methods, that what was done. So you have an introduction that constitutes the significance, what are you studying, what are the different aspects related to it, and what is the significance of the study. Then you go back and look at whatever, as I said, create a very strong foundation of the knowledge base about the problem that you are going to solve. So you always have a very subject relating thing that you are doing. So you go into that and find that out, and then you execute and you look at different kinds of methods. What was done? How was the study conducted? So this comes into the methodology, methods, not the research methodology, but scientific methods that are involved. So these scientific methods would relate from the, the sample surveys, the sample sizes, the data collection, the analysis, and all those kind of different, equipment that are used, software that are used, that is going to constitute in this part that what was done. And ultimately that answers and comes to your next question, that what was found. So what is the results? What are the findings? So, you must have worked on these research projects. I am just dissecting this research projects into various elements so that you understand that it is not just the employing of the technique, but the research methodology that is involved in the working of a research project. You might have laid down the research project also, you might have submitted certain reports at the undergraduate level or the postgraduate level, or when you start with your research, and it constitutes the introduction, the methods, the introduction, the review of literature, the methods, the results and the discussion. So when we say what was found, it is basically like what results have or what findings have come up with. Then comes the question, so what? So what is basically, what do you infer from it, or where do you go from here? So what is that, okay, these are the findings, these are the results that you have got. So what about it? So you have to infer, you have to conclude something about it, and then what now is basically constituting the future recommendations which is there. So the first aspect is the introduction, which is the research, which lays down the objectives and justification, the significance of doing the research. The second constitutes the literature review. The third constitute the methods, the research, sample, data collection, measurements, data analysis, equipment, instrument, all these things comes in the methods. The fourth, fifth and sixth. So fourth comes the results and discussion, as I said, like what have you found? And then fifth part comes as the implications, that is the inference and the implications. So what? If you have found out this thing, then what? How does it affect anybody, or what did you started to find it about? And then obviously the sixth one is that where to go from there, then what for is the conclusion and the recommendations. So you might have even prepared it yourself, these kinds of research projects, including the introduction, literature review, methods, results and discussion, implications and conclusion and recommendations. But this constitute a very thought over research plan, strategy and structure, or research methodology that is basically involved in it, or research designing that is basically involved in it. So we continue in our next session. Thank you.